All right, so our next section that we want to talk about is section 1.2, how humans are related to other animals. In this section, we're going to talk about the different, or you should be able to, for this section, summarize the place of humans in the overall classification of living organisms. So the theory of evolution is considered to be a core concept of biology. It explains both the diversity and the unity of life. All organisms are unified in the sense that they are all descended from the first cells. However, there is diversity because of their ability to migrate and adapt to new and changing environments through the course of natural selection. So because of the great diversity of life, scientists have a need to classify and organize life to help clarify out their work as they're going along. So this branch of study is called taxonomy. It's used to help us understand and explain evolutionary relationships. Now, the most common method for organizing and classifying life begins by sorting life into 3 domains. Those domains are going to be bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. Bacteria and archaea domains are going to contain prokaryotes. Prokaryotes are going to be single-celled organisms that lack a nucleus. Eukarya, on the other hand, contains eukaryotic cells which do contain a nucleus. These are going to be slightly larger, a little bit more complex. Eukarya, or individuals in eukarya, can be either single-celled or multicellular, like the case of humans. So, as we've mentioned, all life is classified into those 3 domains. However, the domain eukarya can be further broken down into the 4 major groups of organisms. So, starting off over here, we have our protists. Protists are going to be, they're going to comprise a number of protists are going to be our single-celled organisms, this particular kingdom. So these are going to be our single-celled eukaryotic organisms. They're going to comprise algae, protozoans, slime molds, and water molds. Now these are going to be very complex single-celled organisms that can either absorb, photosynthesize, or ingest their food from the environment. Funguses, on the other hand, that's going to be this domain right down here, the kingdom fungi. These can either be unicellular or multicellular organisms, but in all cases, they are going to be absorbing their food from their environment. So they're going to digest it externally and then absorb it once it's broken down. Kingdom Plantae is going to be this group over here. This is going to contain certain algae, mosses, ferns, conifers, flowering plants. These are going to be our kingdom of the plants. These are going to be multicellular photosynthetic organisms. So no unicellular, but multicellular photosynthetic organisms that are going to photosynthesize their food in order to obtain the energy that they need. Kingdom Animalia is going to be our final kingdom. These are going to be our multicellular group of organisms that must ingest their food before they can digest and break it down. Multicellular organisms that ingest and process their food. I'm going to let you figure out which category humans belong to. Are we protists, plants, funguses, or animals? And I would like you to be familiar with each of these different classifications of life. You may see on a homework or a quiz where I may give you an organism and I may describe them to you, and I may say, hey, a new organism, a new form of life has just been discovered, and it turns out it is a single cellular organism that is able to photosynthesize its food. And you're going to have to tell me, is that, first you're going to have to tell me, is it a, first you're going to have to tell me what domain it belongs to, domain, archaea, bacteria, eukarya, and then break it down further into which kingdom it belongs to. In that case, it would be a protist. Protists are going to be our only single-celled organisms that can photosynthesize their food. The kingdom Plantae is going to be multicellular photosynthesizers. So most animals in the kingdom Animalia are going to be invertebrates. That's going to be individuals that do not have a backbone and spinal column. So things like earthworms, insects, mollusks. Invertebrates make up the large majority of the organisms found in kingdom Animalia. However, the vertebrates are going to have a nerve cord protected by a vertebral column. This will be things like fish, reptiles, amphibians, and birds. Vertebrates that have hair or fur and mammary glands are going to be called mammals. This would be things like humans, raccoons, seals. All of those are going to be vertebrate mammals. Humans are going to be most closely related to apes, but they are going to be distinguished from apes by having highly developed brains, a complete upright stance, and creative language skills, as well as the ability to use a wide variety of tools. Humans and apes do have a common ancestor when we're looking at their history. But for the most part, we're going to see that humans are going to fall into this same category of animals with all of the other organisms that are multicellular and able to ingest their food. All right, so that was it for section 1.2. We didn't really talk about the term biosphere, however, we did talk about it in section 1.1, so just make sure you refresh on that. And then you should be able to explain why humans belong to the domain Eukarya and kingdom Animalia. What sort of traits do we have that help classify us into those domains and kingdoms? All right, and that's it for 1.2.